Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Now our first story comes from Suspicious Tree 642 and says, am I the arsehole for breaking up with my boyfriend of 10 years after he proposed during my best friend's wedding? This is a throwaway. My 36 female best friend Amy, 37 female, just got married last week. I was a maid of honor and I worked to the bone to make sure her wedding was a success. For the most part, it did go well. My friend looked beautiful, the food was great, the flowers and decorations incredible. She was so happy and it made me feel proud I was part of the group that worked to give us such an important day. Amy and I have been friends since we were in elementary school. We've all reached our milestones since together, went to the same college, even live in the same neighborhood. She's the closest I have to a sister, and even our parents joke we're reborn twins. Needless to say, Amy is one of the most important people in my life. At the end of my masters, I met Danny, 31 male. He hired me as a tutor, and after a few sessions asked me out. I'd never dated someone younger, but he was very sweet and I liked him, so I said yes. We've been together since. He had an older brother, Bobby, 39 male, who was introduced to Amy in a house party I hosted a few years later. The two were immediately taken with each other and they started to date. Eventually, Bobby asked Amy to marry him. During the wedding preparation, Danny casually mentioned how it would be a cute idea to propose during his brother's wedding. Bobby agreed, but both Amy and I immediately shut it down. I told Danny I found that kind of thing tacky. A person's wedding is a special day for them, and tainting it with stealing the attention was just wrong. After that, they stopped talking about it, so we kept going with the preparations. At the wedding reception, Bobby suddenly stopped the music to make an announcement. He said the day was very special as he was marrying the love of his life, and kept singing praises to Amy. I thought it was a cute gesture, so I just moved to sit on my chair to listen to the speech. Then Bobby said a sentence that made me dread what was coming. And now the day is more special thanks to my brother's announcement. Suddenly, Danny was in front of me, kneeling with a box. Amy was in tears and ran out. I screamed at Danny, telling him he was a jerk, and went after Amy. At first, she was angry at me, thinking I was involved in it. So were the other bridesmaids. Thankfully, one of the girls had seen me call out Danny and told the others about it. I told Amy I would never do this to her. We hugged and we all got out of the venue to Amy's suite. We found out later though, the men's mother, that Bobby gave Danny permission without speaking to Amy about it. I called Danny that same night to tell him we were through and I wanted him out of my apartment by the end of the week. I sent my mum to pick up my dog and parrot just to make sure he didn't do anything to them or take them with him. He ended up taking my TV and games consoles. Had them since before he moved in, but his mother was nice enough to bring the consoles back. For all I care, he can keep the stupid TV. Amy is now trying to get her marriage annulled since she feels she can't trust Bobby. The boy's mother has been nothing but a saint to us. She even paid back to Amy the money she spent on the wedding and told her to use the honeymoon with one of her friends. So Amy and I are now packing to go to Australia. She and Bobby had to postpone it for a month so they could get a whole month of vacation. I'm a freelancer that works from home, so I'll just take my laptop. Since this whole fiasco, Danny has been blowing up my phone. Some of his friends have joined in this too, claiming I'm an arsehole for throwing out a 10-year relationship over a mistake. That he only wanted to make a cute gesture to prove how much he loves me. Except the cute gesture was taking over my best friend's wedding after I had said how much I disliked that kind of stuff. Still, a part of me feels I'm overreacting. So Reddit, am I the arsehole in this? The people PMing me to call me names or insult me have the balls to post in public or just leave me alone. I have no interest in cowards that hurl insults in private. Also for the record, if it had been the perfect proposal, for my own reason I would have refused to marry. We're not in marriage talks. Far from it. Absolutely not the arsehole in this situation. I mean, you absolutely told him this exact thing was tacky to you And he decided to get Bobby on board, timed it, and then made this whole plan behind your backs. And what happened as a result of all this? Amy fled in tears, thought you betrayed her, and is now annulling her marriage. They almost ruined your friendship because they wanted this cute moment. And then in the end, he decides to steal your TV at the same time. Holy shit. At least mother-in-law, or ex-mother-in-law, seems like a decent person in this story, right? As well as OP and the bridesmaids, of course, but you know, she's giving that money for the Australia trip. A commenter who was downvoted says, honestly, men don't see that as such a big deal when their mum okayed it. They probably thought it would be a fine in the moment. However, I get that you think it's a big deal. My main problem here is the lack of communication. No couple or marriage is perfect. You went from he did a dumb thing to we're done. Same with your friend. No discussing it, no therapy. Real relationships need work. Opie replies saying their mum never okayed it. Nobody did. They just planned it out behind everyone's back. It wasn't about being perfect or working on it. It's the fact we told them something directly and they didn't care for our opinions. If they don't care what we think in something as important as a wedding and engagement, what would happen to other decisions? They aren't love-sick teens. They are grown men that should have known better and respect when they are told no. Another downvoted commenter says, I'm sorry, I'm going to get downvoted here. But if this is real and both Amy and OP sound like insufferable bitches, I agree it's tacky, and they were told no before. There was no malicious intent here, and the brother probably thought it was a nice bonding moment for them to do it that way. It'd be better without these overdramatic women in their lives. Opie says, I'm better too. Now I don't have to pay for his food, rent, and all the hobbies he can't afford. Another commenter, who was also downvoted, says, both were stupid with what they did. I know you and your friend are mad, but somehow I feel you could have resolved it by talking calmly. I mean, people make mistakes, but people learn as well. And some even become much better versions of themselves after things like this. I suggest you and your friend cool off, then talk to your SOs again. At least now they know you don't fuck off with your boundaries. Opie says, I don't know about Amy, but I have no intentions of going back. Other things have happened that had me on the corner. The fact that he ignored me saying no directly and then stealing my stuff and having his friends harass me have made me unlikely to ever speak to him again as a partner. Grouchy Storm says, make sure you change your locks ASAP. That way he doesn't move back in while you're on vacation or steal more of your stuff. Maybe put cameras up in your house just in case. Good luck to both of you girls. Opie says I have cameras and already called the landlord. I also have a house sitter for the pets so it won't be empty. Another commenter says this seems like a massive overreaction. I wouldn't say you're in the wrong, but this isn't the sort of thing that most people would break up a relationship over, in either yours or Amy's case. I'm not sure why I'd annul a marriage just because my husband's brother proposed to my friend at the wedding. Opie says it wasn't for that explicitly. The annulment is because he went behind her back to do something against her wishes, on something as important as a wedding. Imagine if this was something else, like an economic decision or something related to health or kids. Another one says, not the arsehole, block them all and move on. Also change the locks and passwords Danny had access to. Same with anything financial. Sorry this happened. It's never fun when your SO ignores your wishes. Trust me, I know. Opie says we never merged finances thankfully. I paid for everything so I kept a tight leash on my personal bank account. I do have some passwords to change, but nothing that will kill me if he has for a few more days. Locks are being changed this weekend. Another commenter says, how did you manage to change the airline tickets and other reservations for an international trip from Bobby's name to yours? That warrants purchasing another ticket entirely. Opie says, I'm purchasing a ticket for myself. The one from Bobby, he can do whatever he wants with it. The hotel reservations were in Amy's name since she paid for the honeymoon herself. Opie then replied to a deleted comment and said it's not forbidden, but it's a giant social no. Aside from that, for me, it was the fact that after I've maintained Danny for the last few years in a literal sense, he disregards my opinion just like that. He knows I hate personal displays of affection. I especially hate public attention like proposals. I'm not even big on the idea of a wedding for myself. This was my best friend's wedding, and the only reason I was involved was that. As for Amy, she has her reasons, but I know the big one is being dismissed when she explicitly said she wasn't okay with a proposal during her wedding day. Another downvoted commenter says, ETA here. The boys went against the women's wishes despite being told otherwise. Opie's boyfriend seems like a jackass, stealing a TV and a console. I'm sure there are bigger issues here. The women here are also wrong. Annulling a marriage over this? Absolute drama queen behavior. Breaking up and kicking someone out of a shared living space. Incredibly dramatic. All in all 4 participants seem like they're better off without the others. The whole story is a shit show. Opie says it was my space, not his. I paid for everything, so I reserve the right to kick anyone I want from my space. If he paid rent, it would be different. Smitten Black Kitten replies to that saying, wait, you didn't pay rent, knew you didn't want marriage right now and did this anyway. And the fiancé paid basically nothing for the wedding and honeymoon. What exactly did you two see in these guys? They both sound like losers. Opie says they were charming. I can give them that. I was better positioned economically. My friend is much better than her husband/ex-husband. Still in the air there. It just made sense we took the monetary responsibilities until things balanced out. Except in my case, they never did. Hers was slowly getting better. So it was around 20 days after this post that Opie did come in with an update, and it was a final update which said, I'm going to do a quick update since after this I plan to go back to my normal Reddit account. To begin with, Amy and I are almost at the date to leave. Bobby and her have been talking and agreed to couples therapy after we returned from Australia. I've also talked with him and he apologized to me. He didn't know how fractured my relationship with his brother was, but figured it out by the way Danny acted after we broke up. For the people telling me I should have given him a chance, or that he wanted to do a gesture out of love, you are insane. It wasn't love, but him trying to not lose his meal ticket. Bobby told me after our breakup, Danny began to bad talk me to his family, claiming I stole all his money, his apartment, his pets, etc. He even started to claim he was going to sue me. All of our stuff in the apartment was paid by me. Our pets were my pets. The dogs was my birthday gift, and I've had my parrot since I was in middle school. At first, Bobby was on his brother's side until he noticed Danny wasn't working ever. When he asked Danny about his job, Danny fessed up and admitted that all the money he had was what I would give him. Apparently, he still refuses to work, instead couch surfing from friend to friend. Apparently, Danny admitted to Bobby he wanted to marry me mostly because I was okay with him not working, and he didn't want a wife nagging him about work. He could play all day while I paid all the bills and did the house chores. Bobby was very apologetic, but I told him it was fine. It wasn't. I just don't want to throw more wood to the fire when Amy and him are trying to somewhat get things worked out. I still have another 4 months on my lease, so I'll be moving in December. I have to admit, these last weeks being single have been the best I've had in forever. I'm happier, healthier, and I've been able to cut my hours at work without risking being paycheck to paycheck. Last, to the people saying, because I'm in my 30s, this might have been my last chance. Get the fuck out. I'm not interested in a traditional family, being a wifey and popping out babies left and right. I'm more than happy being in a child-free partnership without some wedding. It's not me being feminist or woke or whatever. It's just I find weddings stupid and I dislike children. I respect women that can live a traditional life, but that's not for me. And no, I never recovered my TV. A small price to pay to get my life back. By the way, I appreciate the supporting PMs, but as I said, I started this post. This is a throwaway. I plan to delete it later in the week. Thank you for the good advice of some Redditors, and sorry I didn't answer all the comments and PMs. Opie replied to a string of comments that was happening and said, okay, Opie here to give you some semblance of reality. Marriage was never in consideration. I didn't want to be proposed in a wedding and was clear that was not going to be a thing I agreed on. I have every agency to say no. There's no discussion. I won't bend on that. Public proposals, especially on someone else's wedding, are a straight no, period. And to be quite honest, I didn't get a lot of the comments that I said were downvoted in this situation, saying that they're being dramatic for this situation. It pointed out a very big problem with the both of them, that they can't listen to the simple boundaries that they had pointed out. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Big Friendship 8007 from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit. And it says, am I the arsehole for not talking to my sister-in-law for cheating on my brother? Title says it all. My sister-in-law emotionally cheated on my brother. They went through a rough patch but eventually got back together. Since I found out brother lived with me during their break, I completely distanced myself from her. I was and still am disappointed. Even after she and my brother made up, she tried reaching out a few times, but I ignored her every time. For my brother's sake, she'll still be at my daughter's birthday, but outside of that, I'm choosing not to have any contact with her. This has been hard for me because we used to be very close. I never had a sister growing up, and she was the closest thing I had. What hurt the most is realizing she doesn't take any accountability for her actions. Instead, she blames others, acts selfishly, and even cried to me expecting that I'd defend her terrible choice for cheating. Am I the arsehole? Bumblebee says to the OP, it sounds like you're grieving the relationship you thought you had with her, which makes this harder. But if she's not owning what she did, keeping your distance is reasonable. Commenter replies to that saying, OP is not just grieving the relationship she thought she had. She's grieving the loss of the person she thought her sister-in-law was. When someone is unfaithful, it changes the way you view them. Add in the fact that she doesn't take accountability and blames others for her actions and plays the victim. OP is realizing that her personality is not the type of person she wants to have a relationship with. It doesn't matter if her brother forgives her. Her view on the sister-in-law's morals and values has changed. If you don't see eye to eye with someone's morals and values, it is nearly impossible to have a friendship, let alone a close relationship with them. OP replies saying, you have no idea how much I've cried. I held it together at work only to break down in tears on my way home. Even though 2 weeks has passed, I'm still so disappointed, hurt and sad. He may have forgiven her, but I just can't. I've tried, but I can't make sense of it. Objective says, not the arsehole. Cheating is cheating in any form. There is no excuse for it. I understand why you're distancing yourself from your sister-in-law, as she hurt your brother. Just be civil to her when you need to, but don't feel like you have to go back to the relationship you used to have with her. Cozy says, not the arsehole. You're allowed to set boundaries with people who hurt someone you love, even if your brother chose to forgive her. It's valid to be disappointed and to protect yourself from the frustration of a lack of accountability. Being polite from family events is already more than enough. You don't owe her closeness just because you used to have it. Bangs asks a question and says, how is she not taking responsibility for her actions? I'm not asking in her defense, but rather to better to understand the situation. Opie says, instead of apologizing, she turned it back on him, blaming him for being self-employed rather than having a full-time job, saying she never wanted to get married young and just wanted to enjoy. If you know, you know. And even admitting she isn't emotionally attached to him and it's his fault. She also blamed her acts on grieving over a dead sister, saying it's been affecting her and that she needed someone to talk to. Honestly, it's so messed up because who in their right mind thinks sending naughty pics and sexting is a part of grieving? And I pretty much agree with most of these comments. You have every right to feel the way you do. I kind of put myself in your shoes and I think if anyone cheated on one of my brothers, would I be able to see him the same way? And I absolutely would not. So there's no way that relationship's ever going to be the same again. So yeah, I totally get that. But it was roughly a month later that OP did come back in to update their post and says, hi everyone, it's been about a month since my last post and I've received a few messages asking for an update, so here it is. The birthday itself was very awkward, but I kept things civil for the sake of my brother and the guests. I didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. Everything went fine. After the party, she tried reaching out to me through social media, but I didn't respond. About a week later, I saw my brother again for the first time in a while at a mutual friend's house. His wife came to pick him up. His car was at the mechanic. I said goodbye to him and ignored her completely. It wasn't out of rudeness, it was simply my decision and a boundary I chose to keep. My husband and best friend told me to cut ties, as this also deeply affected me. A day or so after, my brother called me to tell me she cried the entire way home because I didn't acknowledge her and that she believed our friendship was ruined forever. That honestly caught me off guard. It felt selfish because she didn't show any sympathy when my brother was breaking things off with her. Yet the moment I stopped acknowledging her, she became an emotional wreck. I feel as if she was more upset about losing me than about what she did to him. Then things escalated. She gave my brother an ultimatum. Cut your sister off to show you respect me. That caused a huge argument between them to a point where her father got involved. Her father took my brother's side. He told her that she needed to ask for my forgiveness, and that just because my brother forgave her doesn't mean everyone else has to. Then she planned to come over the same day to apologize and beg for forgiveness without informing us. Just knock on the door and welcome herself in. My brother called to warn me, and I told him very clearly that I didn't want her near my home and she should have thought about her consequences before she cheated. She kept insisting, but I told him I wouldn't open the door. Eventually, he convinced her to stay away. I spoke to my best friend about this and she advised me to remove her from my social media since she kept trying to contact me and it was affecting me. So I did. That apparently led to another breakdown. She cried for almost 24 hours, which caused yet another argument between her and my brother. I tried calling him to check in, but he didn't answer. Later he told me she accused him of not respecting her because he was still speaking to me. Ridiculous if you ask me, because if she truly respected him, she wouldn't have cheated. She throws tantrums whenever he tells her to cut off the bad influence guy friends and due to trust issues, yet expects him to cut me off because I set my boundaries with her. Over time, his calls became less frequent because when he does call, it's usually when he's at work, in his car, or somewhere away from home. He can't talk freely because she apparently uses Google Translate when we speak in our mother's tongue and starts arguments afterwards based on the word she picked up. Eventually, he stopped calling altogether to avoid the chaos. I don't fully understand why he's still with her, but I'm still trying to stay supportive. His mental health has taken a serious hit as he's emotionally drained at this point. My main concern is his well-being. Whatever happens in their relationship, I'll be here for him. He's my brother. I just want him to be okay. What do you guys make of this one? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.